So step 4 is all about selecting the proper equipment. So in this step, we're going to determine what type of networking equipment is right for us that's custom tailored for our specific network design. And so when we're looking at this really takes into consideration everything that we've done so far. So we're looking at our planning process and our design process all the way up to step 4. So we've identified the uses of the network, we've identified what sort of tasks are done on each system on the network, and we know what sort of architecture we're going to do, whether if it's peer-to-peer or it's client-server. Now, when we are talking about our server equipment and selecting it, we need to consider some key constraints. So for example, our monetary constraints and also our resource constraints in regards to if we have the dedicated IT personnel that we need on staff to design out a client server or peer-to-peer network. So those are some constraints to consider, and also some additional potential needs that you're going to have. Now, some other considerations are going to be your reliability requirements. So how reliable does your network need to be, and what's the uptime availability requirements that you need? Another one are your security requirements. How secure does your network need to be? So how many network security devices do we need to have in place, and do we need to have an authentication server in place, or are we fine with everybody on a peer-to-peer network? It's really up to you. It's based upon really the not only what you want to do, but also based upon the laws and local regulations. So for example, a dental office, they'll have to abide by HIPAA laws as well. So they can't just say, well, no, this is fine by us. You have to follow the different state and federal regulations. And then also scalability requirements. So when we're talking about scalability requirements, we're talking about being able to, one, scale up the network, and number two, being able to grow with the business. So the network needs to be able to scale up as the business grows and per the business needs. So not only the current needs of the business, but also the future needs of the business. So let's go ahead and let's walk through some examples of looking at different types of items that you can purchase. So for example, when you're looking at your systems, you have to take a look at the different ones that are out there. And everything I'm doing right now, these are the snapshots that I did in the past of Dell and different options out there. Now these Vostro desktops, these are their business desktop systems. And so these are just a simple example of, there we have a 460 model, 260 model, and 260S. You're going to have to take a look at the prices, and you're going to have to take a look at the specs to see what best fits your needs, because not every single desktop machine is created equal. So when you're looking at desktops, number one, look at the price, and number two, look at the specific design and see if that's going to meet the requirements and it's going to be robust enough or not for you and for your custom design and your business needs. So the next thing you need to look at is you need to consider your servers. So if we're going to be doing a client server architecture and we're not going to do a peer-to-peer architecture, well, we need to take a look at the different types of servers that are out there. And the prices can range from the hundreds up to the thousands. And so if you're doing a tower server design, for example, over here I have my First Server Solutions. These are going to be affordable options as well as the tower servers, but as we get to our rack servers all the way to our Blade and PowerEdge servers, then we're going to be spending thousands and thousands of dollars. So again, you need to look at your needs and requirements and your constraints and determine what fits within your design budgetary needs and also your technical and business needs as well. Server selection is very customized, and it's going to be just like when you're looking at your desktops as well, but it's going to be a lot more detailed because there's a lot more configuration that goes into it. Again, here's some more servers. So here's some more PowerEdge servers, tower servers. This again just gives you an idea of the different prices. So for these tower servers, the cheapest one is $568, and for a tower server here, this starts at $1,500. Now, if you're looking at the Blade servers and the rack mount servers, the prices are going to even be higher. And these are older models. I took the snapshot a while ago. So, prices may have gone down, but again, you're going to see a huge difference in PowerEdge servers to their actual rack mount or their Blade servers as well. So we need to think about our backup needs. So I put some pretty example. So we need to also think about our backup needs, and if we're going to be doing an online solution that's cloud-based, or if we're going to be doing something that's in-house. And the question is, can we do tape backups? Or are we going to do a file backup that's going to be on a disk? Or are we going to replicate our data from one server to the other? So if you are going to be doing tape backups, you need to take a look at that. And I always recommend that when people are looking at backup solutions, that they look at the cost of a tape backup solution to a file backup solution. Now, one of the benefits of having a tape is that once you do your tape backup, you can take your tape and you can take it off-site. And that's one of the best practices for doing a backup, is that you always want to store your backups in multiple different versions of them off-site, because not only can your server fail, but you can have theft, or you can have a natural disaster where you lose everything. And if your data backups are stored in the same place where your hardware is stored, then you're going to lose everything. So that's one of the benefits of doing tape versus if you're replicating data from a server to another that's on the same actual physical location. You can't do that. Or if you have a hard drive hooked up, if it's not USB or if it's not hot swappable, again, you're going to run into that same situation where you're not going to be able to take that and store it offsite. Now, another thing a lot of people don't think about, and this really is part of your network design, is determining what type of interrupted battery backups you need in place. And this is not only for your desktop systems, but more so for your network devices and for your servers. Because I can guarantee you're going to have power outages. They may be short outages, they may be long outages, but the last thing that you want is for everything just to shut off when the power goes off, when the network goes down, especially your servers, because you can have corrupted data, you can have corrupted systems. You want them to shut down peacefully and properly. You don't want them to shut down when the power goes off. And so we need to look at what sort of battery backup solutions we have in place for not only our desktops, but for our vital servers and our vital networking equipment that we need to keep the networking running, to shut it down peacefully if we have a power outage. Now the fun part is you get to look at all your networking equipment. And I'm not going to show you slides on each specific one because we could spend another 15 minutes just talking about the different types. But when we're talking about our networking equipment, we need to determine what sort of a router do we need. Can we get away with a wired router, or are we going to do something like a Soho device that's a wireless router? And same thing for switches. We need to look at our needs for our switches. So there's different speed requirements that you may need as a business. So you need to look at what type of switch you need, and you need to look at the amount of ports that it supports as well. Same thing goes for your cabling. Are you going to be doing Cat 5e, Cat 6, etc.? You need to determine what type of cabling you need, and your networking equipment needs to support that type of cabling. Also, we need to look at some other things. For example, are we going to be doing voice over IP within our network? If so, then we can look at those requirements as well. And then also if we need to do streaming media. So maybe we're a media company and we need to have a streaming media device. That's something we can look at as well. And then also on the last thing up there, we have our enterprise class networking equipment. So, everything else here on the left-hand side with these routers, these really aren't enterprise level. These are really small business level type of equipment here on the left-hand side. But when you go into an enterprise networking type of equipment, your costs are going to go up drastically, but you're going to have much more reliability and it's going to be much more robust. So you need to think in terms of the size of your business, not only now, but for the future as well. And then lastly, we need to think about physical security. So a lot of people tend to not think about physical security as part of the design process, but if you're not securing your networking equipment, somebody could just walk out the door with it. They could go into your network closet if it's not properly locked, and they could just take one of your switches or whatever and unplug them and walk out with them. They could go into one of your offices and take one of your desktops if they're not locked. Same thing, they could do it with your screens as well. So if you're not locking down your LCD screens, you come in the office, you can't get on the network. So these are all part of the network. And we need to think about physical security. So we need to think about locking down all of our systems with our cable locks, with locking the doors and everything else. So that's it. We covered a lot of different things. We covered talking about our physical security. We talked about our networking equipment. We talked about our battery backups that we need, so those UPSs. We talked about our data backup solutions if we need to do tapes or if we can get away with doing some sort of other backup solution. We talked about server selection, and we talked about desktop selection. So there's a lot that we talked about. If you have any questions, let me know. Thanks for watching, and in the next video, we're going to go ahead and we're going to take a look at step 5.